Perhaps it was a skull. London's streets are overflowing with them these days.
It was a vampire, all right. But what kind, I'm not sure. He was large and very fast.
If you find anything more about this creature, the Brotherhood would greatly appreciate any information you could spare.
He was observing me with the obvious intent to do me harm. His very presence evoked a palpable sense of menace.
You need to be careful, Jonathan. You've no idea what this creature really is.
I recently tried to enter a church. It has been a very unpleasant experience.
The Brotherhood's research on the matter of faith and vampirism has proved somewhat insubstantial, to say the least.
It's hard to explain in terms of science, that's for sure.
I'm sure Lady Ashbury will have far greater insight into this matter than little old me.
Is this proof that I'm cursed in the eyes of the divine?
The wrath of the Almighty? There's no way of knowing. It could be subconscious guilt, or irrational fear, or deep-seated beliefs.
What exactly happened here while I was absent?
Hampton turned, quite violently as it happened. Lurking about, attacked Miss Jones. To say he created quite a commotion would be an understatement.
Are you sure it was Hampton that killed Miss Jones?
There was blood everywhere, but no body. And you know the state she was in. I fear for what he did with her. Hopefully he just hid the corpse.
How did the guard of Prewin come to hear of this?
McCullum has spies everywhere. He will jump at any opportunity to disparage the Brotherhood and show his contempt.
Who was that man in your office?
Geoffrey McCullum, actual leader of the Guard of Prewin. I suspect he's the man behind the rebirth of this old and dusty society.
They know I'm here now, don't they?
I can guarantee one thing. The Guard of Prewin would never dare to attack the hospital while I'm in charge here.
What do they hope to achieve?
Their ultimate goal is the eradication of all vampires in the country. They see you as a threat to mankind, Jonathan.
Thank you, Edgar. Sean Hampton lives and breathes for the well-being of his flock. There's no other place he would go but the docks.
On every street corner.
Good evening, Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
What can you tell me about the recent events in the hospital?
That Mr. Hampton killed Miss Jones in her room, then ran away.
And did you see all this?
No, I was working by the tents when it all happened. I only entered the room when they asked me to clean up the blood.
Where is Miss Jones's body?
I don't know. I'd imagine the morgue. It all happened so quickly.
Did you see Sean Hampton leave the hospital?
I think I saw a silhouette exiting the hospital gates after the shouting started. At first I thought it was someone who was just scared, but... well, maybe it was him?
Do you require medical assistance, nurse?
I will be fine, as soon as I can get some sleep.
Nurse, you won't be able to help people if you're sick. Take this, and do try to get some rest.
I'll try, Dr. Reed. Thank you.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance. Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon.
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Is there anything you can tell me about the recent commotion here?
Many things can happen under cover of night, Dr. Reed. But I took no part in this massacre.
But did you see or hear anything?
I can't say I did, but the smell of fresh blood almost made me faint, Doctor.
Do you require my services, Miss Howcroft?
I have no need for your medicine, Dr. Reed. Blood is the only drug I need.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of postulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard's syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cottard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
It was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities. Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reed.
Can you tell me anything about recent events at the hospital?
Before the shouts and the noises, I think I heard whispers coming from the stairs. 2 voices, maybe more.
Did you recognize the voices? What did they say?
I couldn't hear. Sounded like they were arguing or something.
Soldier, do you need assistance?
Not really. I think I caught something in this bloody hospital. I swear I'm dead, yet smiling inside, Dr. Reed.
As long as you remain here, I will make sure you don't have to worry about your health.
Don't think you can do much about it. Damage is done.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
How close are you to Miss Hawcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. While I'm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me.
So do you let her bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
And why not? She's only supping a few drops of me blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
And it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotard syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Damn! The pain. It's here again.
What on earth happened here? Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Tell me, Thelma, why do you feel so attached to Mr. Elwood? Why him?
I'm not sure, Doctor. I think we have a bond of some sort. We've both suffered so much. He's the only mortal I find interesting.
Do you plan to make him a vampire too?
Of course not. How could I inflict my curse on anybody else? I'm not that cruel, Doctor.
Would you say you and Mr. Elwood are romantically involved?
No. No, Thomas is a delicate soul. Even though he disguises it. But I am not the woman he needs. No, for I am a vampire, Doctor.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities. It's locked. Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Everybody's afraid. Death has always been a frequent visitor. But murder? How can we cope with that?
As a nurse at this hospital, it is your duty to deal with these things as best you can.
Yeah. Until it's my turn to have blood spread all over the walls. I entered the room first, Dr. Reed. I've seen what that monster did to the woman.
Do you need medical help yourself, nurse?
I'm afraid I've contracted some illness, Dr. Reed.
Not under my watch, nurse. Take this. You'll feel better.
Thank you, Dr. Reed.
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
You must get a hold of yourself, nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
Pepper, are you sure you want to leave this hospital?
To become a nurse was a little girl's dream. But in the end, I don't feel that useful. I want more. I want to make things change.
But you're doing something important here. For all the patients who need your help.
We save lives, sure. Each time we send a cured patient home, it's a relief beyond words. But since the epidemic, I feel so powerless.
What steps are you prepared to take to feel more useful?
I don't know yet. My sister believes that the real fight is in the streets nowadays. Maybe she's right. Maybe this is what I must do.
And what about Milton Hooks? Does he share your point of view?
For Milton, any change means more comfort and more peace. I disagree.
If you feel that saving lives is not useful enough, perhaps it means that you've lost faith.
On the contrary, my faith has never been stronger. Maybe we are all just too proud to face up to the fact that science cannot compete with God.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
You don't mind if I search your pockets, do you, sir? You won't need any of these anyway. I'm not stealing from you, mister. I'm only redistributing your belongings to people who need them more than you. You see, no one has claimed your body, sir, so it would be such a shame to bury you with your valuables. I will not forget you, sir. And I thank you for your generous donation.
The right to disapprove of our methods, and you will kindly apologize when you're feeling better.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me...
How can I be sure I'll not find your unconscious body in the house again?
I promise you, you'll not find my unconscious body.
For God's sake, how can you say such a thing?
How can you refuse to listen? I tried to warn you for so long.
No, I won't let my only son die. You promised me you'll stay alive.
Your son lied to you, like the whole world lies to us.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Can you tell me anything about the recent commotion in the hospital?
I'm sure it was not your fault, Dr. Reed.
My fault? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. It's just... I heard it was you who brought the murderer inside our walls. But you couldn't know, could you?
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time. Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior. A man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed? Yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swans's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Nothing like this would have happened if we'd had enough staff and proper shifts.
So you don't think the blame is ours?
We all hold fast here, Dr. Reed. Our methods may differ, but we are all trying to make a difference.
What do you think of Dr. Tippett's opinion of your promotion, Waverly?
Tippett is a good practitioner. Maybe just a little too attached to his prestigious position at the Pembroke Hospital.
Really? That's exactly his diagnosis of you. A little too eager to get promoted? A little bit too proud?
He has the right to think so. But I deserve this promotion, and I don't consider it anything but well-earned.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd. I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
This is ridiculous. My blood transfusion technique saved many lives, and you know it.
You see? That is exactly what I hate about people like you. You avoid this kind of accusation instead of facing reality.
Tell me, Waverly, what do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
Other people may say that's too conservative a point of view.
Conservative? And what are you going to say to Mr. Fiddick if he loses his arm because of the operation? Because that's what's going to happen if the surgery is a failure.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
Aren't you too old for such jealousy? It really won't do you any good, you know.
Don't be ridiculous, Dr. Reed. A simple glance is enough for me to know you have nothing for me to envy.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Still more coming. How can we be sure we're making a difference?
Good evening, Dr. Strickland.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reed. Can I be of any help?
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Always knew the words to calm the children, Ellen. As for me, what a blundering idiot.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Please, tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital.
I heard Miss Jones call for help from her bedroom. There were some loud noises, like people fighting. All of a sudden, it went quiet. And then the nurse started screaming.
Do you know who the nurse was?
Not sure, but I think it was Nurse Hawkins.
Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army, building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Aykroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is, I disagreed about wooden nails, not flesh and bones.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable, and your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies. Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl. Reads me like a book. Never could keep...
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No.
Really? Why are you here, then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
I had shouting coming from the first floor. I was asleep when it started.
Do you need any help?
I'm afraid I may, sir. I don't mean to be a burden.
You are not a burden, sir. Healing you is my responsibility.
And you have my gratitude for that.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Admit it, Mortimer. Your mother had you hospitalized here because you tried to kill yourself.
Yes, it's true.
All right, then. This is the first time we've really shared information about your case. Shall we call this progress?
Call it what you want, Dr. Reed.
You can trust me. I won't report you to the authorities. My one and only concern is your health.
I guess I should thank you, then.
Can I help you in any way, Mr. Goswick?
I wrote a letter for my mother. She was supposed to read it after my death. But I suppose she doesn't have to read it now.
I see. And is this letter still near the place where you tried to take your own life?
Yes. And I don't want anyone reading my last words. I mean, I'm still here. If you bring me back that letter, then perhaps we'll talk.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
It's a disgrace. How on earth can patients be attacked in their own rooms?
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Your son wished to die, Beatrice. Why did you hide such crucial information?
Are you not aware suicide is a crime? Mortimer could be thrown in jail. I can't let that happen. I won't.
I understand you fear the legal consequences, Mrs. Goswick. But don't you realize your silence significantly affects your son's case?
All my son needs is help and comprehension. Not judgment and punishment for what he may or may not have done.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
I will not let you down.
Thelma Howcroft said she was being watched by vampire hunters. Where are they? Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Always a pleasure to meet a colleague, sir. Especially when he was supposedly dead.
A colleague? Are you a doctor too?
Not anymore, sir. I used to be Dr. Rakesh Chadana. Now, I'm just Mr. Chadana, pawnbroker and humble guardian of this morgue.
What do you mean, you used to be a doctor? Was your license revoked?
No, sir. It is just that I like to be precise. I run a little pawn shop while taking care of the dead. But I used to be a real doctor.
Can you tell me anything about recent events in the hospital?
Oh, goodness me. This whole story is such a shame, sir. I have no idea how it happened.
What are you talking about?
Poor Miss Jones. Her body is missing. Someone stole it.
Who could have stolen a corpse?
That's exactly what I asked myself for the whole day. Who could do such a thing? These are terrible and shameful times, Dr. Reed.
Miss Jones's body has gone missing.
Yes. The body was brought here this morning, and now it's gone.
Do you work here alone?
Yes, very easy work, sir. All I have to do is watch a few bodies. The situation was very different when the main morgue was still open.
Why close the hospital's main morgue?
It was for sanitary reasons after the beginning of the epidemic. Cadavers had to be moved to the nearest mass grave.
Why do you have to watch these bodies?
Because these poor fellows have no names. We keep them in case someone comes looking for the missing. Sadly, very rarely happens.
Have we met before?
I don't think so, sir. Why?
When we first talked, you said you were glad to meet me since I was reported dead.
A funny story, sir. Your sister came here a few nights ago. You were missing, and she was looking for your body. She must be very relieved now.
Are you afraid or uneasy being surrounded by so many corpses?
Why should I? These bodies are empty vessels. Flesh left to decay. Poof. No soul anymore. All gone.
How did you get this job?
After I left the army, I worked as an undertaker down by the docks. A dangerous place with many an unpleasant business there. Milton Hooks helped me get a job here.
An interesting point of view. And quite an exotic one, too. Most people fear, or at least have a respect, for dead flesh.
Sir, as a medic during the war, I learned to face my death and the death of others. It's the pain we have to tame, not death itself.
A pawnbroker? I expect you get all types of people here.
Yes, sir. All kind of people. For I sell all kind of goods.
What kind of goods?
With the quarantine, it's not always easy to buy things. So I trade. I exchange. Some people sell, some others buy. I like to help.
Who comes here to trade with you? It's very unhygienic, even unsafe. Diseases can spread. For the customers, for the hospital.
I'm very cautious, sir. I've been a doctor, remember? And all my clients are good people. In fact, I think I only know good people.
Since you're not afraid of dying, do you believe in life after death, Rakesh?
No. I believe we must do all the good we can while alive. For our time is short, and the obstacles are endless.
Do you think you would enjoy immortality as a concept?
I don't think so. Don't mistake me. I love life, and I'd like to live a long life. But everything has to decay, sir. Even goodwill.
So you're ready to die?
No, I'm not. I don't fear death, for I won't see it. What troubles me is the pain my death will inflict to those I know.
You're a wise man, Mr. Chidana.
No, Dr. Reed. I am a foolish man. But I like to think otherwise.
Do you really believe goodwill cannot last?
As I said, sir, everything decays. If I was to never die, goodness, I would be bored or worse. And I like to be helpful, sir.
Quite depressing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but the good news is, we'll all die before losing our humanity, sir.
How dare you steal from the dead, Rakesh? Is that what your pawnbrokers is really about?
These people are dead, sir. What they possessed could be useful for the living. And I'm sure they would agree if they could speak.
You should show respect for the dead. What about their loved ones who may treasure these items you sell?
The bodies I watch over are the unwanted and undesired, sir. I would never deprive anyone of their family artifacts.
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.